Alright, what is up everybody? My name is LRock617. Gonna be showing you a showcase submission for Double Dragon for the NES. A little bit of history about this game, both for myself as for the game in general for the GDQ franchise. This is honestly not a game I grew up with in terms of the NES. There were a lot of other games I was playing prior to this. I played a little bit of this as a young lad, but it wasn't a game I necessarily flocked to, probably because of the absurd difficulty. Like, I played it a little bit, but not to a huge extent. Not compared to the arcade version, but that was just because you just pop in a quarter and just throw down, and why not? But I remember playing it again as an adult. I think it was over at a friend's place some number of years back, and just completely fell in love with it all over again. It's actually a really fascinating game once you've dug into the tech of how the combat works. And it's since become one of my favorites. It was actually my first NES speedrun, having picked it up I believe it was May of last year is when I first started playing it. In regards to GDQ, I'm actually surprised that it hasn't been back at the event in quite some time. In fact, I believe the last time it was showcased was back in 2011 with one of the other sub-12 runners, in addition to, along with myself, that being Hide Rage. Probably the all-time greatest runner of this game. But today I'm going to showcase what is still my current favorite run of this game from myself. It's actually not my current PB. It's a couple seconds off from that, but I feel overall it's the much more qualified run to be able to show off and be able to showcase what actually can go into this game and how it can look fun and how it can look like a great speed run for a marathon showcase. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best about talking over this here. The reason I'm not showing the... Thought I had that turned off. Sorry, that was actually a follow notification that came off from something else, so I'll go ahead and switch that off there. So anyway, on the Double Dragon, for the very first stage, the big things you want to get are good enemy grouping. For the very first section, this is actually a fairly heavy reset point now for me if you can't get the enemies to be able to cluster together. The kick being certainly the most overused move that we're going to have. It's very, very efficient. For a couple of reasons. One, it has really, really good XP building. You get 15 points for hitting a kick. And two, the opponents can't duck it. And crouching is their primary form of defense. Missed an input there, so I had to turn back and do it again. So you're going to see a whole lot of kicking, especially until we get to 2 hearts. Another thing to talk about with this game is referring to the XP that I had mentioned earlier. In the bottom left corner of your screen, you see a number of hearts underneath your life bar. Hearts do not actually represent your health total in any capacity. They represent how many points you have towards your experience in this game. Your moveset levels up as you progress through the game. Every 1,000 points nets you a new level up in addition to a new move or moves to add to your moveset. I'm going to take out these Lindas here. The whip is also really, really good when we can use it. It builds 30 points and it does really good damage. I think it's double whip damage. A little bit of a bad spat there with that second roper. We're going to bring a Bobo in, kick him twice, knock him off the edge, and that's going to move us past mission 1. We're starting into mission 2. I'm going to reflect on some things in this game that are a little bit different now than how the run was when it was initially showcased 7 years ago. There's actually not a whole lot of difference, with a couple of major exceptions. This run now actually does feature at least one intentional death that saves quite a bit of time over what the run used to be. That we'll be seeing in stage 3. Here we're going to take this dynamite, take this from this guy. We don't need that for the bat because, as you can see, we're not going to use it. We only do that just so it's a one-hit kill, and dynamite actually provides a good amount of experience when you can hit somebody with it. I think it's 40 XP that you get off of it. So it's a pretty strong gain. We're going to see from this gentleman here as we're about to take him out. Moving through another wave of enemies here, we're going to get the whip. We have one primary goal for the end of stage 2 that we're coming up to here. We want to be able to be at 3 hearts by the time we finish the final boss of this level, not of the game. We're going to take out these Lindas here. I did an early input there, but with the whip down, that'll bring us to 3 hearts, which is good. You can be anywhere from 988 hearts on heart 2 up to already being at 3 hearts up to this point, to be able to make sure that you can get advanced and have the moveset that you need. Had a perfect chin fight here. Walked right past him with a slap, and then we walk him over for the headbutt, and that's going to glitch him out of the game, and we're going to move on to mission 3. Start of mission 3. We need to have the jump kick, which is what you get at the third heart, because we're going to have a William assault us with a knife, and confronting him is absolutely the easiest with a jump kick, as you see there. Now, I'm actually going to hold a knife through here, because this actually allows me to continue to do basic kicks like you see. The flip side would be if we weren't using it, we would be potentially doing roundhouses. Roundhouses are automatic triggers on the kick input that you sometimes get, not necessarily at random, but it's more based on proximity than anything, like how close you are to the enemy. Roundhouses are not something that you actively want because they not only knock down, but they provide less XP. We're going to headbutt that guy to the left side of the fence and move on. Reason we do that, it actually creates a despawn. Sorry for the drop frames there. For these two chins here, we can line them up on the right side of the screen. We can line up those kicks to where it actually knocks them off the screen. And it actually spawns collision detection from the lake, as you see. And it actually knocks them in for a quick kill. And take that knife there and fling the guy across the bridge. We actually have to do that because if we don't, then he actually doesn't despawn and we have to go back and fight him. So having a way to kill him portably is essential. For the rest of this level, all we're going to have is just some standard roper enemies. They die in 5 kicks. They're really nothing special. Much like other enemies in this stage, you can see they'll get out of hand with jump kicks sometimes, but that's just RNG. There's really not much you can do to manipulate that. From here, we're going to move on to one of the scariest boss fights in the game. We have the first double Abobo fight. Now, without using a level up glitch that you can utilize in Mission 2, you don't have access to elbow. So with these guys, it's actually really, really scary to fight them with just your standard kicks and punches and jump kicks. But it's the fastest way to go through the game, as has been determined up to this point. Now, ideally what you want to have for these Abobos is for them to be able to line up so you can get inside their hitbox and just chain them. Just continue to do kicks and make sure they both get grouped and knocked down. But we missed that opportunity. Again, that's also random. Sometimes they just get out of line like that. But the fight still worked out pretty well. We were able to daisy chain them and managed to get through that. This section here in the second room, we have what I call the bugles. They're just stalactites that fall from the ceiling. They do quite a bit of damage. It takes only 4 of them to kill you. But they also have random falling intervals. If they decide they're going to fall, they're just going to fall. There's nothing you can do. You can move back to get away from them, of course, but of course that costs time. Ideally, you're just hoping to get hit by maybe 1 or 2 to move on to this quick boss here. It's just another couple of chins. These guys are actually really difficult to fight when there's no up and down movement. Particularly because they have a lot of health, and your only true utilization weapon against them is the grab, like you see there. That's the 4-heart move that you gain, and it's also a very essential move to this run. It allows for quick kills on a lot of enemies, especially where cliffs are featured. You know, hanging edges and being able to toss them over and making sure they don't last a long time. That one is not one that's utilized. There's actually a floor there. Moving on to this room, very random first section. This is actually a very scary section. It doesn't have any chance of really ending the run, but it can drain a lot of time. Because these guys, once they throw the dynamite, they just start getting really jump kick happy, as you see there. Got pretty lucky with him falling on his own dynamite there. This is also the room where we're going to see our first intentional death, which we'll see coming up here momentarily. If I remember correctly, in this run, there was a momentary pause before it happened, which does happen from time to time. Again, it's random. Much like how the stalactites work in the previous room, we're going to see it here. That one fell right on where we're trying to go, but we're going to move advance, take the jump, and what that does is it puts us right at the bottom rather than having it do the really slow screen scroll where you have to jump down and fight the Abobos in really bad territory, and I figure why not just save the 6 to 7 seconds. Good couple of quick kills there to knock those guys off the ledge. It's a glitched wall. It's really easy to line them up, much like you did with the chin in stage 2. What we've got here for these Lindas. This is actually a pretty simple room. You only got 6 enemies, and all you have to do is make sure you can connect your throws, and you're good to go. Forgot there was one more. Drop the knee, move on down. We'll move on here to the last level, which is by far the hardest in the game. For a good number of reasons. First reason, we have the wall. A lot of people who play this game are familiar with the wall. Completely random obstacle that you have no control over. Now, Some runners, like CL Chambers, have discovered that there are ways to determine when a new cube will pop out from the wall and where it will pop out. But if you're trying to go fast, you really don't have time to wait. So the strat for us is to just take jumps and just hope for the best. These chins can... There's actually a somewhat faster strat I've utilized since dealing with these chins here. Sorry, again, apologies for the frame drops. The goal is still the same, get him knocked off the edge. But the way I utilize it now is a little bit slightly different. What I try to do is wait for the chin on the right to come in and then knife him, and then make sure I can throw the one on the left and then proceed from there. That part is actually where the other intentional death would take place. We jump down that hole on the left side of the wall. That one I would never use in a marathon setting. It doesn't really save that much time. It only saves about 2 to 3 seconds, and it allows me to keep an extra life to be able to save for the last room. Last room being the absolute hardest in the game, and only going in there with 1 life can really be a death sentence. I'd rather just make sure the game can be played until completion. Take care of these Williams by throwing them over the edge. This moves us on to a room that a lot of people aren't very fond of. It's a platforming room, which, myself included, a lot of people feel that shouldn't even be in a beat-em-up game, but Double Dragon is notorious for having them, so we're going to utilize what we can here. Ideally, we don't want that guy knocking us down. Sometimes he comes out of that door and jump kicks us, which does cost time because we have to scramble to try to get to these platforms and run our way up to the last room here. A quick elevator boost here. One other strat I will comment on that I don't use here, there's actually a task jump you can do here. I believe it's pixel perfect and frame perfect. You have to catch the elevator as it's coming down at the right pixel, land on it, and then immediately jump to the right again. I personally have never seen a human pull it off, including the other 2 sub-12 runners. So I've attempted it just through like save state practice or whatever, but I've definitely never gotten it. It's just way too difficult. Certainly not a good RTA strat, but it's cool that it exists. This last room, we're going to have this quick boss rush here. Bunch of Williams that we fight before then. Impending, I actually did get really lucky on this boss rush for one particular reason. The very last hit I landed on the Abobos is what gave me the 6th heart, and the 6th heart is what you need to be able to do the elbow, which is the best move in the game. Started the loop off pretty strong. You want to make sure you group them together, and I messed it up here because I was a pixel too close and they got to separate. Tried to go for the same strat I did in Mission 3 as well, just make sure I could daisy chain them. Had to stay outside their hitbox range, though, instead of inside. Because the timing wasn't allowing me to get in. They just went for the jump kick just to make sure it would kill them, and there's the 6th heart. Take out the chin here. Now, there's actually a small mistake that I made here. I did not mean to throw him. That was just a missed input. What you're supposed to do on the grab is do 5 knees, then walk over, mount him like I'm doing here, and then punch him until he's dead. Mount was a move he got at heart 5, I believe, but we don't see it too much. This guy decided to act up a little bit. Got a jump kick, and he punched me out of it, and then he decided to go again. Then moving on to the hardest boss, have Machine Gun Eddie here. I think it's actually Machine Gun Willie. I've just always heard of Machine Gun Eddie. It's just kind of a joke name. There's a few different strats you can utilize for this boss, none of which are really random, but even with those strats, he's still the hardest boss, simply because one minor execution mistake means that the fight just goes completely down the toilet. But I managed to land the 2 grabs there that I needed to. The other strat that you saw me utilize is at the very start you can elbow him down and then mount him, which causes him to throw you off. That's just a trigger. If they have enough health, then you won't be able to mount them. And when you get up, you have enough time to elbow him again. The risk of that is he can trade with you, and he can actually deal damage back, whether by shooting a gun with proper timing or by swinging the gun as a melee attack. So for Jimmy, we're just going to go for our consistent loops here, kick, kick, elbow. It takes, I believe, 12 of these to put him down. And we're just hoping for the best here in terms of him not being able to get a hit on us. Good finish there. That was actually my first sub-12 run. I've had one other since then. I think 2 others. I think my current PB is 11:57, which saves 2 seconds on that. And then after that, not the same day, I believe I got another 11:59. So sub-12, once the strats are consistent, is pretty common. It's not uncommon at all to be able to see it out of the runs that I've been able to put together. But that to this day is still my favorite run of that game that I've been able to do. Sentimental for me, as I mentioned, it was my first sub-12, and that was a huge gate for being able to really push the game to what I know it can be. You know, it's really the foundation of the highest level of the game, that being sub-12. And at the end of the day, I just really would love to see this game in a marathon again. It's an NES classic. It's one of my favorite games. It has great music. Oh, it's maybe my favorite soundtrack on the NES, and that's covering a lot of ground. Has a great story, has really fun combat, and really cool stuff to utilize. The enemy manipulation is just really something else when you can utilize it properly. And by that I mean there's so much that you can do to be able to make sure that your strat is going to work, but there is a lot of RNG to it as well. So no reason not to go for it. But at the same time, it's a game I would love to be able to showcase one day to GDQ. So, hope you all enjoyed that, and this is going to be L Rock signing off. See you at the next run.